Hey.
Man, what's the knowledge? It's your boy Demon. We back. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to talk to you guys about, how close are we really to World War III? I wanted to pose this question for you guys today and open it up for discussion because for those who don't know, yesterday on December the 3rd, a U.S. naval warship and a few U.S. commercial ships were attacked by Yemeni-based drones, meaning that these specific drones were originated in the country of Yemen, which for those who don't know is backed by Iran. So before I go any further into this, allow me to read the article from the New York Times so we can get a clearer, more detailed picture around the situation. According to the New York Times, a Pentagon official said the USS Carney shot down the drones as several commercial ships nearby came under fire on Sunday in attacks that U.S. Central Command said come from Iran-backed Yemeni Houthis. A U.S. Navy destroyer shot down 3 drones during a sustained attack in the Red Sea on Sunday, the Pentagon said, in what could signal another escalation in the tit-for-tat attacks between American military and Iranian-backed militants. A Pentagon official said the USS Carney shot down the drones as several commercial ships nearby came under fire as a part of an attack that began at 9:15 a.m. and lasted for several hours on Sunday. The destroyer intercepted 3 drones during the attack, United States Central Command said in a statement, including one that was headed in the direction of the Carney. The Pentagon said there were no injuries on board the destroyer and the ship was not damaged. So, I wanted to expound on this because these are the type of situations historically that could easily lead into a global conflict. And of course, certain elements have to be right for a global conflict to take place. But we've seen in the past 4 years alone, so many historical global events happen as if there were dominoes just falling on the floor, like the domino effect. It keeps happening. One thing happened, then another thing happened, then another thing happens. Like we've been seeing this. These are the type of events that cause mass conflict on a different type of scale. I mean, if you go back to the World War II era, back in the 1940s, right? You had the Hungarian Duke, I want to say, Archduke Ferdinand Franz. He was assassinated by, an organization called the Black Hand at the time. Him and his Duchess were assassinated. This particular moment was the spark for World War II, right? Now, for Americans, it really wasn't a spark for us because at that time, politically, we took the stance of we don't get involved in something that's not our business, right? Which was cool until Japan attacked us at Pearl Harbor. Then we wanted to get involved. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Usually America doesn't get involved. Now today in modern times, we get involved, but we get involved in sneaky ways. To be more specific, we get involved by giving money, sending weapon systems, different weaponry, different defense systems. This is known as being involved in a proxy war. And for those who may need a more recent example of what a proxy war may look like, if you look at the conflict in Ukraine, even if you look at the conflict in Israel that's taking place right now, these are what is known as proxy wars, right? These are proxy conflicts. We don't necessarily put our people down, their boots on the ground. You won't see that, but you will see our weapon systems. You will see our allies using our defense systems. You will see our allies get, government aid from the U.S. This is what is known as a proxy war. And I bring up these points because I want to kind of paint a picture or look back retrospectively on the Biden and the Trump administration so we can look at key moments that happened during these administrations to where unrest, not even just here nationwide, but unrest globally seemed like, something major is about to happen. Something major is on the horizon at this point in time. So if we go back to Trump's election, right, which was, I believe, in 2016, he was elected into office. Yeah, there was a bit of a divide throughout the nation, but what presidential candidate that gets elected doesn't, come with some type of division in this country. I think very rarely that this country, out of the 46, 45 presidents that have been, elected, have one president being unanimously elected throughout the whole country. But that's another topic that's not even important talking about right now. But we look at Trump going into office. Yeah, there was some division, but not until around his third year, maybe it was like 2.5 years into his term, you start seeing, stories come out about how he may be colluding with Russia, this or that. There's basically some things where, other people, and there's some truth to it. Yeah, there's evidence of Russian hackers, tampering with our election, with that Trump election specifically, but that isn't even like the moments and the key moments that I think where we started getting close to a global conflict, if you will. I think one of the key moments, or some of the key moments that happened during the Trump election to where we could have been thrown into a World War III type situation, is him bickering back and forth on Twitter with Kim Jong-un. At that point in time, the North Koreans were developing different nuclear capabilities damn near on a weekly basis. I mean, every other week you would see them with a different type of evolution in their capabilities. So one day maybe the missiles can go, 1,000 miles or however many miles. Then the next day we're getting reports that they have better capabilities already, right? So I think that was one of the major things. I remember vividly being in college, and when a helicopter flies by, or we were close to the college I went to, we were close to a military base, so there would be certain aircrafts flying by, and people wouldn't really know, like, okay, is this a nuke about to be dropped on our heads or what? And they could be, that could have been us just being extra paranoid, but we were tuned into the news, we were tuned into the Trump administration. At that point in time, we felt like the nation had never been this divided, bro. We felt like we've never had this much of a polarizing character in a president before. You get me? So yeah, that came with different doubts and different type of paranoia at that point in time, but compared to the Biden administration, is nothing compared to that, right? I look back on this retrospectively, and a lot of actions that were taken by Trump, I come to believe and to understand him doing those things actually may have helped protect us on some level. Now, not before we get into the Biden administration, there were still some fishy things happening in the Trump administration towards the end. Basically, the biggest thing to me was, the Capitol riots on January 6th. That was weird, fishy business to me. That was almost like, okay, this dude he's trying to be a dictator now. He summoned these people to come, bomb rush the Capitol and disrupt the next transfer of power. And for those who don't know, it's not like I'm some super spy or anything like that, but I read different texts, The Art of War, different things like that. I'm kind of tuned in with this, but I'm not a military person or information, or I'm not one of these, some liaison for these intelligence agencies, bro. I'm just a normal man, simple man, but that doesn't mean you don't have to be tuned into these things. But for those who don't know, if you want to successfully attempt a coup, the best time to do that is during the transition of power. And that's for any nation. It doesn't matter how strong it is. So seeing Trump do that when he was supposed to be out of office and Biden was supposed to come in, and of course I have to say allegedly, because there's no proof that Trump actually got these people to come do that. That's kind of what he's on trial for, that and some other things, but there's really no real solid proof to connect Trump to that specific uprising. And a lot of politicians don't want to call it a coup or an attempted coup, but let's be honest, on a day that a president or a figure of that stature is supposed to leave office and another one is supposed to get elected into office, you're telling me the type of people who are usually that president's supporter, i.e. Trump supporters, they're coming up here with weapons, AR-15s, plate carriers. It didn't look too organized, but it was organized enough to where they had the amount of numbers and the amount of people that they would need to go in and actually do some damage. You're trying to let me believe and let other people believe that something didn't take place at that point in time. You want me to believe that some asset wasn't either put in place, some information wasn't taken. Like this could have very well been a clandestine operation that was enforced by any of our enemies during that specific day. And yeah, they could have got, white people or people who look like Americans to go up there, but there's no telling really who's a spy until you figure out they're a spy until their cover is blown. So it could be a guy who looked like he was born and raised in Michigan, but he was there on January 6th, and maybe some Chinese, intelligence got a hold of him. Maybe some Russian intelligence got a hold of him. They have some leverage over that guy or what have you. He could be an American born and raised man or woman. That doesn't mean an American raised man or woman can't be flipped and can't be turned. And let's even say maybe there weren't any, Chinese or Russian benefactors or any other nation that may want to overthrow the American government. Let's say it was just real thoroughbred, red-blooded Americans who were there. That doesn't mean that it still wasn't an attempted coup. Any faction or any militia or any body of people that has power or different means to go overthrow a government and has that as an objective is a threat to democracy. Realistically speaking, like, even if, let's say, I gathered up a group of 50 men from Alabama, a group from 50 men from Georgia, a group of 50 men from what other state you want to name, that's 150 guys. We go up there at the point in time where the transition of power is supposed to occur, and we go hold the Capitol up for hostage, basically. We go and, disrupt the flow of that transition of power. That is an attempted coup. They try not to call it that. They want to call it an insurrection. That's not the case. If we're trying to stop democracy and the flow of democracy and implement our ideology, even if we're calling it democracy and it's not really that, that is an attempted coup. All right. Now, going past that, I believe that those were the key moments for me in Trump's administration where I was like, this is just too fishy. It's just too much weird things happening and taking place all at this one point in time. But I want to transition now to Biden's administration, because I believe comparing Biden's administration to Trump's administration, there's like 20 times more fishy activity going on in Biden's administration than what happened in Trump's, administration. But we go in, if we look back, Biden was elected 2020. That year, COVID-19 happened, the pandemic. And this goes back to me talking about we're being attacked from all sides. China has always been that number one adversary. Sometimes they would be switched out with Russia as being the number one adversary if you look back at it during the Cold War times. But since then, China has been our number one adversary. And for that specific, virus to pop up and take over the world and get a hold on all of the world, literally it was a pandemic that touched every part of this globe. But for not only for that to happen, because that those type of things can happen. You look back at Spanish flu, you look back at any pandemic you want to look at historically, the Black Plague, it can just happen. These things are a part of nature. But with this pandemic specifically, every professional that we look at or go to in these times to look at different viruses and different illness and what have you, every professional on the American side, at least, that we trust to go and research these things and test out different theories behind these things, they've all said that this particular strain of COVID has the makings of a man-made virus. So you can take that how you want, but I know one thing: if I'm running the nation and I put all my best professionals on the job to see how can we get a vaccine to trace the origins of this particular virus, and the origins point back to Wuhan, China, like ground zero is literally Wuhan, China, and they're telling us that this has the makings of a man-made virus, I'm gonna say, okay, China is playing chemical weapon war games right now. even though it is a virus and you can't necessarily just say that out in the public as a public figure. You can't just put that on China. I mean, I guess you could go say it, but if you don't have solid proof, you can't really stand on it. But even still, if I'm commander in chief, which the president is, he's supposed to be the top war general in his nation. If I'm thinking about it from that perspective, I'm like, okay, China's playing war games. Not only are they playing war games with just, chemical weapons being that virus, if you think about the effects that virus had on the U.S. economy, going from that point to where day one COVID-19 touched down in America, from that point, you go forward a little bit and now the whole nation is on lockdown, meaning businesses can't get any traffic. You have to change your business tactics. Now you have to start implementing something that was completely new and never really thought about until that point, which was remote work. That changed the economy drastically. But then you go and you continue to go forward, and now the White House is starting to put in place different fiscal policies like COVID relief or the pandemic relief, where different families would get like $1,200 a month, and then you get more depending on how many dependents you have in your house. That changed the economy drastically because there's more money being printed at a faster rate. The Fed literally had to print more money at a different type of rate to keep up with the changes in our environment and in our economy at that point in time. From the point of 2020 to 2021, in that 1 year, 40% of all currency that has ever been printed, meaning since the inception of America, 40% of all currency that has ever been printed had been printed in that 1 year. Just 1 year. So you go from that point in time, and now even if you look at the numbers now, from 2020 to 2024, to 2023, finna be 2024, 60% of all currency that has been printed since our inception has been printed. That means the value of the American dollar has dropped drastically. We may not be seeing the effects now. I mean, we have been seeing it with inflation and different things like that, but I don't believe we're really gonna feel it until maybe another year or so. But that right there, in and of itself, is fiscal warfare. That is, economic warfare, if that's even a term. But attacking someone's, money supply is definitely war. You get what I'm saying? Attacking how people get money and attacking their way of life, especially with a society that's supposed to be capitalistic, something based on free enterprise, something to where you can go in with a little bit of money and make more money, and that's how you make it in society. That is attacking a society basically at its foundation. And now once we move past COVID, the next fishy occurrence or fishy world event that, and I'm just going off the top of my head, but the next fishy thing that I can remember is the Colonial Pipeline being hacked. So if you don't remember, or maybe you're not even aware, I want to say year 2 of Biden's administration, the Colonial Pipeline, which is the biggest pipeline on the East Coast, had been hacked by Russian hackers. Of course, they can't say it was backed by the Russian government, but the hackers do originate in Russia. Every clue that we had that could tell the origin of where those hackers were stationed, it led back to Russia. So for about a week, that pipeline had been held for ransom. And not only did they hold it for ransom, they actually were successful in getting a ransom. And to this day, I don't think we have an update on those people being brought to justice, or that faction being brought to justice. We don't even know who those hackers are at this point, and it's been years since then. That was a fishy occurrence, and that's not even the first time our infrastructure was attacked like that. I think they've been able to keep it low key. The media has been able to keep it low key, but there have been other instances to where our infrastructure has been attacked in that type of way. But that was the biggest blunder, and that was one of those moments to just me as a citizen where I really looked around and like, we're really a bit more vulnerable than we understand. And even just to keep talking about the infrastructure, I believe we have like 14 power plants, like major power plants in the country that we rely on to power this country. Anybody could walk up to those power plants. Any person could go up there, disrupt it. They don't really have real security. But even past that point, all of the engineering that's based on the technology that is, that we use for these power plants to operate is all Chinese technology. It's all Chinese engineering. Meaning the people who created this come from China. They were based in China. It's Chinese intelligence based behind this technology. And I think there's something very telling on who we come to trust as a nation to come build our infrastructure and maintain our infrastructure. Like, we're literally trusting one of our greatest adversaries to come maintain key components and key energy, plants that we need to sustain our way of life. Imagine you being one of the three little pigs and you're trusting the big bad wolf to come help you build your brick house or your hay house or what have you. And not only to build it, but to help maintain it. That's what we're doing, and I don't get the rationale behind it, but I guess it is what it is at this point. Like, this has been going on before I was even born, so I don't know. It's definitely something cooking up in the behind the scenes, like. But I want to move on to my next point because I'm about to wrap this video up. It's been a long one. I've been talking and I've been giving up a lot of points, but it's so many angles that it's pointing to, or it's trying to show that something major is about to go down. And the next point I want to talk about was the slow encroachment around Taiwan that China has been pressing. They're slowly but surely showing all the signs of them trying to invade Taiwan. I think they're just waiting on that right key moment for them. Because think about it. You have the conflict in Ukraine. You have the conflict in Israel and Hamas. And we just received news that we're slowing down, or I just received some news that we're slowing down on the government aid to our different allies. Like the Congress vetoed a bill or something like that. But it's telling, bro. It's telling, like, this is a crazy time to be alive. Something major is about to happen. And not only do you have them encroaching on Taiwan, but it's just like, fam, these little skirmishes with the U.S. destroyer USS Carney is, I'm telling you, it's going to take one of these small little situations to become something big. I think it would have to be something a little bit closer to home for it to really be a real global conflict, but it's crazy time we're living in. I mean, and we're not even the only country going through economic hardship and shit like that. Like, it's so many countries right now at this moment, their entire economies are collapsing. Or maybe 6 months ago, their economy collapsed. It's too many puzzle pieces at play for something major not to go on. You get me? Like, I wish I was more in tune with this type of thing in the world, the espionage, and I'm not trying to be a fucking spy. I'm not trying to be any of that, but I just want to be aware. So whenever the hammer drops, I'm ready. Like, and everyone should be thinking like that right now. People think, oh, this is just this and that, or it's gonna be cool. Shit is gonna cool down. Like, no, bro, it's not gonna cool down. It's not gonna cool down. I was watching a Jake Tran video where he was showing, like, I forgot the name of the cycles, but it's like every 80 to 100 years, the world goes through a period of great suffering, of great conflict. And if you read it, the book is called The Fourth Turning, I think, what he was talking about. And if you read it, man, we're literally in a generation that's due for another great conflict. They broke it down to like one generation, they struggled, they have the great conflict. The next generation after that, they're doing very swell, very swimmingly. Everything's great. The generation after that is kind of more the same, where, shit was cool. You had this idea of what society is, but then it starts to change, and now it's something back to chaos. And then you get to the point where we're at now, where everything is unraveling, and only the spoils go only to the victor. This is always how nature has been. Is always how it will be. We're going through one of the greatest, transfers of wealth at this point in time. The last time we had something like that was probably around 2008. There have been many transfers of wealth, but I think this one is going to be way more massive. They're trying to, there's talks of a recession. There have been talks of a recession for the past couple of years, but I don't think we're really going to see the effects of it until around this time next year. They've done, the government has done what they can do to ease the pressure on the economy, but if you look at the levels, if you look at the metrics, we've been past the levels of where they were at when the '08 crash happened. So, it's really only a matter of time, really. And it's so crazy to think, I didn't think that I would live to see, because, when I was a kid, I didn't have the 2008 crash on my mind, bro. I may have been in like 4th, 5th grade at that time. I don't even know, because I know '03 I was in kindergarten. But I may have been like in 4th or 5th grade at that time, bro. That was nowhere, and you feel me? It kind of makes sense because I think about like how my people would move at that time, my parents. But that was nowhere, like life was cool, even all throughout that. But the difference between '08 and now is going to be way, way darker. It's going to be way more degenerate shit going on in the populace. We already kind of see it, in places like Chicago and places like LA where people are getting robbed broad daylight. It's so many angles to where America is being under attack. You look at the border crisis, right? That's crazy in and of itself. You have people from, Spanish speaking countries coming through the border, Venezuela, Mexico, what have you. You have cartel members blending in, just walking right over. There's nobody there to stop them. You get me? And then there are reports of Chinese citizens coming through the border as well. Like, it's so many angles. Those could easily be spies. Those could easily be some type of foreign assets, that were set here to go and collect intelligence or to go disrupt something, go cause chaos on some type of societal level. But it's just crazy times we're living in. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. This is a long video, man. I'm sorry if I was rambling. I was trying to get all my points out. But shout out to the real ones. I love y'all. It's your boy Demon. Stay aware. Stay dangerous. Stay safe. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one, man. Peace.